Hello and welcome to Hoops Royalty. I'm King Jimison. Sadly, right now, not alongside Karna because we actually recorded yesterday, and this is an emergency addendum to the Hoops Royalty podcast because today was Grizzlies Media Day, and though we recorded together yesterday, we thought we have to give y'all some takes from today's Media Day because there's some big news, and you're going to want to hear it. You're going to want to hear what it means for the Grizzlies. But full episode is coming after this little Media Day segment. In that full episode, Karn and I go into tons of things, starting with Evan Turner's comments on the Grizzlies moving to Nashville. Yikes. Just a sneak preview there. Karna pretty much destroys that take. Then we get into lots of talk about the Dame Lillard trade. Who's the title favorite now, Bucks or Celtics? You'll see which side I chose to take, and I guarantee you I'm right, but, I'll let Karna speak for himself too, and how that trade affects the Grizzlies, because even though most of the moving pieces were on the other side of the NBA, those Eastern Conference moves had some Western Conference ramifications, with the Suns adding to their depth and dumping off DeAndre Ayton, and also, if the Grizzlies consider themselves title contenders, as we certainly hope they will be, the Bucks and the Celtics are the teams they're going to have to be competing with. So we finished that full episode with a fun picks segment. Yeah, we got some best bets for you. We're looking at the Grizzlies over-under win total. Where should you go on that, as well as what are some other bets you can make on the Grizzlies this season? So tune in for that one. You don't want to miss it. But now, let's talk about Media Day. And for that, I have a little royal decree of my own. That's the gavel of justice. That means it's time for a royal decree. My royal decree on Media Day is it was a big success because Steven Adams is healthy and ready to go for training camp. Let's go. Man, that was such good news to see in my timeline. I was in school at the time in my journalism program, but saw it on Twitter and I was like, whew, thank goodness. Steven Adams, after months and months and months of uncertainty over this knee injury that held him out from January until the end of the season, and we weren't even sure what he was doing this summer. We do know he underwent some kind of procedure for it, but now finally, it looks like he's ready to go. So that's big news. That's my royal decree, is that Media Day is a success because the only thing we really needed to know was about Steven Adams. We got good news there. Now, I will caution people by adding that Steven himself said it would be irresponsible to say he's fully ready to go. He's got a lot of ramping up to go. I'm not sure we can guarantee he's going to be in the starting lineup day one. What I do think we can guarantee is he will be ready to go in the early part of the season. Within those first 5 to 10 games, he will be on the court and he will be healthy, because whatever issue was messed up in his knee, and he said, man, it was tough. He didn't really give a lot of details, but he did describe that it was a much longer process than even he was expecting, certainly longer than the Grizzlies were expecting, but whatever it was, Steven Adams is ready to go. So that's point number one. That's the royal decree. But a couple other interesting things, which, you know what, I think we can put these under news of the realm. The other news is Ja Morant will be able to travel with the team, practice with the team, be around the team during his 25-game suspension. And this was another one that, man, it really makes a difference for the early part of the Grizzlies season. We were absolutely thrilled to hear that news, because that means as long as he doesn't suffer some kind of setback, he should be ready to go game 26. And not only will he be ready to go physically and in terms of his basketball ability, but he will have been integrated with the team. He's going to be a part of the team in every way except the games. He was also not at Media Day either, but that's an obvious consequence of a suspension. And so that just means that we're going to be looking at a Ja Morant who is not only eligible to return in mid-December, December 19th to be exact, but he should be returning on that date. That was great news. One more thing I found interesting about Media Day, and this is not direct Grizzlies news, doesn't affect on the court matters, but Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose had some super interesting comments, starting with talking about how he got to Memphis in the first place. So it turns out he actually reached out through mutual contacts to Ja and T. Morant, and he wanted to be a mentor to Ja already before he was a part of the Grizzlies. And because of that interaction, Derrick Rose's agent reached out to the Grizzlies like, hey, would y'all be interested in adding this guy? Like, he's already trying to play this mentorship role that your star so clearly needs. And sure enough, they signed him. Now, basketball reasons aside, I'm so excited to have Derrick Rose in Memphis. If you factor in the basketball, I don't know. He said that he is not there to babysit Ja. He's there to push him, and also that he is there to play. He is in Memphis to be an active part of the roster. I hope that is true, because the Grizzlies' guard depth is in a perilous spot without Ja, and they need Derrick Rose to play. We will see what moves the Grizzlies make when they fully whittle down the roster before we say who that other backup point guard is likely to be. At this point, it's Marcus Smart and Derrick Rose. That is your point guard and backup point guard during the 25-game suspension. So I was encouraged about the reason why Derrick Rose is in Memphis. He clearly wanted to be here, and he wanted to be in this role for Ja as a mentor. But also, there's a lot of questions to be had about whether he can actually produce on the floor. So those were just some of my Media Day takeaways. In just a few moments, you will hear the rest of the episode. But as always, like and subscribe on YouTube. 5-star reviews, nice comments wherever you're listening to this podcast. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell Grizzlies fans, and tell Grizzlies haters about the Hoops Royalty podcast, because we're going to have a lot of great content rolling out in the next few days. But with that, the special emergency addendum to Hoops Royalty is over, and the full episode with myself and Karna will be coming on shortly. Hello and welcome to one of the last off-season editions of Hoops Royalty. I am King Jemison alongside, as always, Karna Venkatraj, and we are here to bring you more Royal Hoops takes. No longer live from the 901, but certainly about the 901. And Karna, we are only 24 days away from Grizzlies regular season basketball. How are you feeling, good sir?
I'm ready. I off camera or off podcast, King and I were making some plans, creating some, I think, a content schedule that's going to be pretty exciting. Maybe some live reactions. I don't know. Getting back to our kind of the genesis or the first part of our podcast. So excited to maybe catch some in-person Grizzlies basketball. Excited for basketball season to just start. We had our blockbuster trade today, but I'm ready for the season. Love football season, but ready for some basketball thrown in there too.
Well, and if you're just catching us, we are a Memphis Grizzlies podcast, but we talk about the whole NBA as well. We talk about tons of things as well. I mean, Karna and I are both new to the Midwest. We're trying to figure out life here. I'm going to some kind of fall festival this week. Going to do some apple picking.
Oh my God!
I went to an Iowa football game last night, so I'm trying to do this Midwest thing too. So we're living vicariously through all of our friends still in Memphis. We're living vicariously through the Memphis Grizzlies, but at the same time, you may hear us drop some Midwest references, particularly as we move into what's about to be a very cruel Great Lakes winter for both of us.
For any of you Midwestern folk, can y'all tell me what euchre is? Because I feel like y'all are just making stuff up at this point. Euchre's not a real card game. and y'all should just play Texas Hold'em or any other game. So
Your Texas bias coming out yet again. For people who don't know, Karna, he's hidden it at times on this podcast, but this man is Texas through and through.
always will be, baby. Always will be.
And he's ready to get his heart broke by Oklahoma and Red River next week.
I need to get my heart broken by anybody. And speaking of, this is a quick aside, and then we'll jump right into the Grizzlies talk. That's what y'all are here for. Something's cooking in Houston at that NRG
That's
Stadium.
true.
Something's cooking right there. D'Amico Ryans, CJ Stroud, the boys are buzzing. The Texans look good. I'm high on them. I'd have to do a little interesting move in the finance department of my own. Make a little interesting play for the AFC South. I don't know.
All right.
Open. That's all I'm saying.
All right. You heard it here, folks, that Karna Venkatraj will be betting on the Houston Texans to win the 2024 Super Bowl.
No, I'm not betting. I don't bet. Betting is crazy. Gambling is crazy.
Oh, okay. But you are picking them to win the Super Bowl
I
under
am,
CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I'm predicting that the AFC South can run through Houston right now. I don't know. They look the best to me. Anthony Richardson, questionable. We'll see how that goes. I think it's between the Colts and the Texans. Our defense looks better. That's all I'm going to say. Grizzlies.
That's weird to say because, I mean, I would say the Titans and the Jags were pretty much the clear favorites coming into this season. And, like, you know, the Titans, they've done okay, but a team led by Ryan Tannehill, you're not going to trust them to win big games.
It's solely based is whether Derrick Henry can recalibrate and find it again.
He did today. He did.
Yeah.
But you're not here for NFL talk. You're here for those beautiful, royal Grizzlies hoops takes. And in this show, we're going to be breaking down quite a few things, starting with some crazy talk by Evan Turner and JJ Redick, though he walked it back. Then getting into the NBA news of the week, which was Dame Lillard's trade and the subsequent moves that have gone on after that. We're going to talk about it in general, but also how it relates to the Grizzlies. And then we're going to finish up with a fun little debate about the Grizzlies over-under win total. We'll see if it's actually a debate or not, but we're going to have some win total picks for you at the end of this episode. But Karna, I hear you have a royal decree for us. So before you give it, let me play that beautiful, that powerful gavel of justice. All right, hit me with it. What's your royal decree?
Yeah, Evan Turner's an idiot is my royal decree. Obviously, like I think maybe he knew what he was saying or something like that. I don't know. I don't. Maybe he didn't think it all the way through, which is another sign that he's just not very smart. At least this take wasn't very smart. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say he's dumb, but this take was really dumb. Moving the Grizzlies from Memphis, where they have a almost 94% show rate to games, to Nashville makes absolutely no sense. Memphis is... It's so clear that he's not spent a lot of time in Memphis because the organization now, especially the players, now reflect the city and its culture. And Memphis, and I credit the Grizzlies organization so much for integrating the Grizzlies' efforts, both like social impact, even just what they mean to the city, and the visibility of players. The front office has done such a good job integrating them into the city. Memphis loves the Grizzlies. Ja Morant is a face of Memphis in a lot of ways. And I really, really think it's a dumb take, both financially. And I'm not even going to say anything about Nashville as a market, even though demographically it makes no sense to move them there. Sorry, I did. I mean, like they have a hockey team, they have Nissan Stadium, sure, and they're a growing city. It still makes more sense demographically within Tennessee to put the Grizzlies in Memphis, right? Just that whole area is revitalized by having the Grizzlies there. So I think economically it makes sense to keep the Grizzlies in Memphis. Demographically, it makes sense to keep the Grizzlies in Memphis. The Grizzlies mean so much to the city. The Grizzlies mean so much to us. Evan Turner, You have no idea what you're talking about. Please don't ever get the Grizzlies' name out of your mouth, man. Like, you didn't play there. You went to Ohio State. Like, I don't want to hear anything from you, dude. Like, I don't want to hear anything.
This was just an example of somebody talking about something they really don't know about, and it wasn't a well thought out take. And you know what? It happens when people are shoving microphones in your face all the time, and when we live in this content starved world that's just making podcasts, making videos, making hot takes on TV all day long in every single medium available. So I get why Evan Turner and JJ Redick on the Old Man and Three podcast thought it might be fun to talk about NBA cities and which cities need an NBA team. But by the way, what's going to happen is the NBA is going to expand. They don't need to move the Grizzlies out of Memphis to get a team in Nashville.
Yeah.
Personally, I agree with you. I'm not sure a team in Nashville is the best idea to begin with, but it doesn't have to be the Grizzlies moving, okay? There's 30 teams. There is certainly going to be expansion in probably the near future of the NBA. But everything you said, I'm going to give it the full royal stamp of approval. Yeah. I mean, this is how I feel about it.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
I don't need to spend too much time more talking about this, but I just want to bring up one thing, too. When I say demographically, I think I also mean the historical ties, and I know they're at odds right now, but of the University of Memphis and the Grizzlies. Like, University of Memphis Tiger basketball has meant so much to the city and has such deep roots in the city. To pretend like there's no tie, even though they play in the exact same arena, there's a tie of basketball that's so deep into Memphis that it's just hard to ignore. And I don't think that same history exists in Nashville. And Evan Turner also said Columbus, Ohio. Now, Columbus, Ohio is awesome. I get that. But also, yeah, like you were saying, you don't need an extra team, or you don't need to move a team to place another team there. I think what would be interesting is a team in Columbus, and then on the West Coast, maybe a team in Las Vegas, and you can add one.
Yeah, we need a team in Vegas.
Yeah.
And Seattle needs a team again. Get Seattle a team.
Yeah.
For our guy, Michael Janney, they need a team. Even though he's adopted the Grizzlies as well. But just one little stat for you, for those saying move it to Nashville. The Tennessee Titans were 18th in terms of attendance percentage last year. They're 21st in terms of attendance percentage this year in the NFL. So, yeah, Nashville is a growing city. Yeah, Nashville will probably add an MLB team in the near future. But it's not like this is a city that is just starved for sports, that is rushing to pack the stadium for whatever sports they've been given. It's a city of a lot of transplants. Okay, nobody's from Nashville. They all move there. And what that leads to is bars throughout Nashville that have some connection to an NBA team or an NFL team that's on the other side of the country, in any part of the country.
Yeah.
It does not have that local pride that is what makes the Grizzlies so special, they define the culture.
Yeah, and that's demographically what I was talking about too. Like, it's just there's not like a really, really strong sports culture in Nashville. It's the same reason Austin's not going to get an NBA team anytime soon, right? Like,
yeah,
demographically, it just doesn't make sense because there's no hoops culture there, right? Like, there's no real culture, and the demographics are so transient that to build like a local flavor and a local following, it's really, really hard. So that's just something I would caution Evan Turner, who played at Ohio State. Who cares, right? I shouldn't say that too loud in Cleveland, but that I would just caution him to maybe think more about what he's saying or do any sort of research.
Listen, the argument here is not about what Memphis needs. It's about what the NBA needs, but Memphis needs the Grizzlies. That is the number one thing that people associate with Memphis nationally. And it is also the thing that brings people downtown. It is the thing that gives people in Memphis something to be proud of. It's absolutely essential to the city. And they've responded, the people of Memphis, by being an incredible fan base. And everybody across the NBA has said that.
They also responded to JJ Redick by the looks of it.
Yes. So the other part of this story is that JJ Redick, he ate crow. He walked back his comments. And honestly, I'm not going to say I feel bad for him. I understand where he's coming from. He was just like, oh, yeah, Nashville, that sounds good. I will take it that he wasn't really considering the implications of taking the Grizzlies out of Memphis. I think he was just kind of riffing. Oh, yeah, Nashville, that sounds good. But it's another example of an irresponsible take. And I'm glad he apologized. I really appreciate him for that. And I don't think he does that if not for some serious backlash from the Grizzlies fan base. Because, by the way, the Grizzlies are an extremely online fan base. I'm not going to lie and tell you it's like a big fan base compared to some other NBA big market teams, but the Grizzlies Twitter sphere, it can pop off, create some great content, and when they find a villain, in this case, the Old Man of the Three podcast, they will go after that villain full force.
It's funny that the Grizzlies fan base is so terminally online because MLGW power outages or something serious. I both remember like 3-4 hour power outage just randomly in the middle of the day. So yeah,
not good to fire off your Twitter takes.
A little bit of interesting Memphis local news. We're getting like some fiber optic cable company from France to create high speed internet. So that's
good.
High speed internet, I guess, but that's cool.
That's a major move. Well, with that, I declare this royal decree over, and you dominated Evan Turner there in the straw man argument.
And I would take him in the post, too.
So with that, let us move to the next segment of the podcast, which is News of the Realm. And for that segment, we need to hear those beautiful trumpets. Those trumpets mean it's time for News of the Realm, where we go into whatever the biggest news in the Grizzlies universe is. And listen, training camp's about to start. There's about to be a flood of news. We're going to be drinking from the fire hose. But at this point in the NBA offseason, the biggest news has nothing to do directly with the Grizzlies, but we're going to tell you why it still does matter. That would be the Damian Lillard trade. In case you are living under a rock or you actually have better ways to spend your time than listening to offseason NBA content, which that's crazy, but okay. Damian Lillard is no longer a Portland Trailblazer, but shockingly, he's not a member of the Miami Heat either. Damian Lillard is now a Milwaukee Buck. The Bucks received Damian Lillard in a 3-team trade that sent Drew Holiday, DeAndre Ayton, and Toumani Camara to the Trailblazers, along with 1 unprotected first-round pick, 2 pick swaps. And the Phoenix Suns, for whatever reason, decided to help the team that beat them in the 2021 NBA Finals get better. And so in this trade, they sent out DeAndre Ayton, and they got back Yusuf Nurkic, Grayson Allen, Nasir Little, Keon Johnson. And the Portland Trailblazers were not done after this trade. They took Drew Holiday, who we all knew was not going to be a Trailblazer for long, but he had a particularly short stint in Portland because 2 days later, today, he got traded to the Boston Celtics. And the Trailblazers in that haul got Robert Williams III, Malcolm Brogdon, and 2 first-round picks. So a big haul for the Blazers. First of all, congrats to them. Their tanking/rebuilding job is off to a fantastic start. But the NBA landscape has been shifted. First of all, Karna, after these successive trades, which I guess I said they were 2 days apart. They were really, let's see, it was Wednesday and then it was Sunday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 4 days apart. After these 2 trades, 4 days apart, who is your favorite in the East? Celtics, Bucks, or somebody else?
I mean, I think they're clearly the 2 best teams now, right? Like, I think Drew Holiday does some things that would potentially help the chemistry between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, right? Like, I think he provides like the facilitator role. He's played in big games. He's a championship winning point guard. So I think that he has some things to offer the Celtics. The Bucks, this is a really interesting move from the Bucks because I think it's not as much to do with Damian Lillard as it is to do with Giannis, where he's like, I think there has to be a conversation in that building that goes, Giannis is starting to get frustrated. The talent just isn't there around him. to compete against like an Embiid or a 76ers / Celtics. What do we need to do to go back to the mountaintop? We need to get another star.
I'm
Damian
surprised you put the 76ers in that conversation, by the way. I'm just gonna
mean,
put
like,
a pin in that.
in the last couple years, right? Like,
yeah,
they've had stars, regardless of whether they've been successful with that stars. Beside the point, right? Like, they have Harden, they had Embiid, they've had like Tobias Harris. Like, would I consider him a frontline star now? No, but they paid him like a star, and I think that's a conversation the Bucks are having. Is like, we are a small market team. We do need to invest. How do we do that? We have to give up some capital, but for a better front line. We have to give up some depth, but for a better front line, we keep our best player, our generational talent happy, and also add one of the best clutch performers, best shooters in the NBA, best point guards in the NBA. So for the Bucks, I think it makes a lot of sense, not just from a player personnel perspective currently, but also from a let's keep our best player happy perspective. And I think those are equally important to the Bucks front office as of right now. One interesting point, and I'll let you jump into the Suns part of this because that's the most important part for us as a Grizzlies podcast. One thing I wanted to check is, what does this trade and what do these assets do for the Suns from a defensive perspective? I think we both know Nasir Little isn't going to change the makeup. We understand how the Suns offense is going to work, right? I think we know that Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, we don't know how they're going to work together, but we know that the offense is running through those three figures, right? So how do these role players kind of impact the defensive side of the ball? I believe at least Nasir Little and Jusuf Nurkic, and I believe Grayson Allen's have a positive defensive raptor, right? So what that means is, like, if you wanted to put in like baseball terms, it's like a summary statistics, kind of like wins above replacement. What we're seeing is that these guys can defend multiple positions. Well, not Jusuf Nurkic, but Nasir Little and Grayson Allen can, and I think Keon Johnson as well, but I'm not sure. I know less about him.
I would not say Grayson Allen can defend multiple positions. He gets taken advantage of in the playoffs. We've seen it firsthand as Grizzlies fans. He can defend sometimes at the regular season level, but when it gets more to that one-on-one switching defense, I think he's going to be played off the floor.
Relative to like a Tony Allen, I'm comparing him relative to like a Bradley Beal, who's a lot older, right? Like his minutes are not going to be contingent on him scoring. His minutes are going to be contingent on him playing defense, and his positive raptor within the last season shows that he's improved as a defender. And I'm not saying it's like a defensive pick only. Nasir Little and Jusuf Nurkic are really the both defensive kind of stalwarts. I'm saying Grayson Allen's number, like, he's not going to get on the floor for scoring. He's going to get on the floor for playing defense.
It helps anybody's defensive raptor to play on a team that includes Brook Lopez, Giannis, and Drew Holiday. Three first team all defense level players. I'm just saying that he's getting easier matchups in that case. His team defensive statistics are going to look better.
Sure.
Whereas now, on a team that does not have the defensive infrastructure as the Bucks do, I believe Grayson Allen will get exposed even more defensively, more similar to how he was exposed in the 2021 NBA playoffs for the Grizzlies.
That's my point, though, is like he's going to have to play defense. Yeah. And I think what we've seen year over year, his defensive raptor has improved. And you're saying it's a confounding variable. I'm saying it's possible that's real improvement. And if it's not, he's not going to play very much. Sure. Yeah. But I think they still improve defensively relative to like a Devin Booker or a Bradley Beal. Would you agree?
Do I believe that Grayson Allen is a better defender than Bradley Beal?
Yeah.
No, I think they're both pretty bad defenders.
I don't agree. Bradley Beal's
he's not substantially better. Yeah, I mean, Bradley Beal was also carrying the entire offensive load on the other end, and so probably wasn't giving his greatest effort defensively. Grayson Allen is only out there because he does give effort. I am not super worried about. I'm saying that his defense might look better in the regular season than it really is, and that's a credit to him playing hard, but it does not substantially improve the Suns' defense.
Okay, so the Suns had one of the like a really, really bad defense before, and they have one of the worst projected defenses for this year. I get that you don't think it moves the needle that much. I think you've keyed in on Grayson Allen for a larger point, which is that Nasir Little is a really good defender, and Yusuf Nurkic has a plus 2.0 defensive Raptor, which makes him a huge upgrade on DeAndre Ayton. So let's set all that aside. Let's just talk about Grayson Allen, if that's what we're going to talk about. His metric for I believe Grayson Allen wants to be on the floor. Crazy take.
He definitely does.
His pathway to getting on the floor is playing really, really strong defense. I think he will play really, really strong defense, and I will make a bet with you. I don't bet, but I'll make a bet with you. I will make a bet that we come back October 1st, 2024, and we look back at his defensive Raptor, it will have been higher than what it is today, which is
okay,
a positive defensive Raptor.
I would take that bet because I believe his defensive Raptor will be worse this season.
So it'll be negative.
Yeah.
Okay, that's such a bet, dude. Okay, sure. It's such a bet.
There we go. Let's get back to the task at hand, though. I mean, first of all, I'll keep my take on the overall trade short. The Bucks are the title favorite. And I like what the Celtics did. That was a fantastic response. But I see the Bucks as the title favorite. This is a trade that covers up their number one weakness, which was their spacing in the half court and just general half court of offensive problems. And the asset you gave up hurts you defensively, but if any team can handle defensive losses, it's a team that has Giannis and Brook Lopez in the front court. This team is set up to have to cover for a defensively limited guard. And on the flip side, Damian Lillard is maybe the second best truly long-range shot maker in the NBA behind only Steph. Like, he commands more gravity far away from the basket than anybody besides Steph.
Certainly.
And if you are combining that gravity with Giannis's just utter dominance, his ability to get downhill in the fast break, his ability to just crash into the paint and draw fouls, finish over multiple defenders, I don't really know how you guard them. How do you guard that pick and roll? It seems like an impossible task, and you're going to get the most highly motivated version of Damian Lillard this season. He sees that this is his opportunity. He has probably been quietly wanting to get out of Portland for years now, but he's a loyal guy. Finally, he makes a move that's about him, and I am totally okay with that because he did his time. The Trailblazers were in a new phase of their organization. It was time to find him a new home, and they found the perfect one. They found him the home that gives him a great chance to win an NBA title, and I think they're the favorite. The Celtics got better, but I would still take Damian Lillard and Giannis over the trio of Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Drew Holiday. I need to see more from
Kristaps Porzingis.
What's that?
And Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah, we'll see if Porzingis is even on the floor at that point. Yes, Boston has more talent, more depth, and they are certainly a juggernaut still. But the two-headed monster of Lillard and Giannis is the most unsolvable problem in the NBA, and so I'm going to bet on that until I see otherwise.
Yeah, I disagree with you. I think that well, no, I don't. I holistically, I think that makes a lot of sense. Like, what you're saying intuitively makes sense, but I think what you're missing is that the Celtics have now gotten way, way better, not through just big moves like this, but through depth moves, right? I think one thing, though, that is interesting is getting rid of Robert Williams. I don't think is being captured by Vegas as like a big move, but it is.
He just hasn't played very much, so I can see why.
But I understand that he doesn't play very much, but like, we saw flashes of what he could do defensively and how important he was to that team. That I think that I don't know. I think I think it was a very, very interesting move. That, well, right now Vegas has Celtics as the favorites to win the championship.
Yeah, I mean, I see that another sports book, not a sponsor, so we're not going to throw out names here, but has the Celtics and the Bucks tied at plus 400 odds to win the championship.
I think this website, the Fox Sports, just aggregated them.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Either way, but I still think sometimes we can be victims of the moment. I think there is a huge depth problem with the Bucks, right? Where do they get scoring from if Giannis goes down again? Where do they get scoring from if Damian Lillard goes down? These guys are not immune to the beatdown of the NBA season.
They still have Chris Middleton on the roster, by the way. I don't know if you forgot about him.
No, I didn't forget about him. Dude, he's A&M. I saw him play in college. But so are you saying he's good enough to – that's the trio that you would take over Drew Holiday and all the depth from the Celtics?
It's similar to – and we're going to switch this whole conversation back to the Grizzlies in a second, but it is similar to why I like the Grizzlies' big three so much, because their skill sets complement one another. So, yes, there may be more talented big threes out there, but it's hard to find one that fits better skill set-wise.
Yeah.
The same is true of Milwaukee, and it is not true of Boston. That big three overlaps in some problematic ways, and I'm not sure Drew Holiday is enough of a true point guard to fix the issue of having Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown be your best two players.
I think you've drastically undervalued how Drew Holiday can operate as a point guard, but that's beside the point. I'm happy. Let's forget that call conference. Are we forgetting the Nuggets? Like, we're forgetting all the depth
of course.
they have and all of the good things they've done and all the three-headed monster that they have. Like,
but they sacrificed some of that depth this offseason.
I think a lot of NBA media has like a huge recency bias and these like drastic shifts in how like NBA media and Vegas bet on things and formulate like opinions doesn't really make sense, right? Like 2 weeks ago, you told me that Nikola Jokic is still the best player on the planet.
Oh, he is, absolutely.
You sit there and told me, and then you told me the Suns don't have enough depth to win the championship. We both agreed on that. But now you're telling me these three players, Middleton, who's been inconsistent, who's had injuries, Damian Lillard, who's 30 plus now, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, who has the most physically demanding job in the NBA, are going to win a championship. It's
going to be less physically demanding now.
Based off of those three guys. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, I think you're a victim of the moment, and that's okay. But I think that has formulated in your mental model that, like, the Bucks are now the favorite. First of all, Vegas doesn't agree with you, and hopefully they are making money. Second, you sat here in the continuum of this podcast and told me the Suns don't have enough depth, and Nikola Jokic is the best player on the planet. Are we just forgetting all of that?
Let me read you some players who will be playing heavy minutes for the Milwaukee Bucks, and don't think that's a bad thing. So we've talked about the three-headed monster of Lillard, Giannis, and Middleton, of course. But have we forgotten that one of the best defensive players on the planet is also in that front court in Brook Lopez? Have we forgotten that they have two flamethrower shooters in Pat Connaughton and Malik Beasley? Don't love Beasley as much, but still, that's two really good shooters. Have we forgotten that they have one of the best energy guys in the entire NBA in Bobby Portis out there to mix it up, to provide them some juice, to give them the depth they need if Giannis is to miss a few games.
They averaged 7 points last year. That's the flamethrower shooter? That's your guy? Like,
he's
dude,
giving you spacing.
Now we're grasping at straws, man.
And whatever you want to say about them, this team has been good defensively for years now.
My caution to you, I guess, is like, we can't sit here and just say like the Bucks are now well, first of all, Vegas doesn't agree. Second of all, which is fine. I agree that we shouldn't just agree with whatever Vegas says. Then you'll never make money betting, which I don't, obviously. But my argument is the betting favorite should be what thing we've learned, even from the Bucks title run in 2019. Over these
2021.
21. Over these last years, even the Heat showed us it's no longer – the NBA has substantively changed, and I think your mental model is more 2012 Miami Heat. The more depth you have, the better you're going to be. In these longer, drawn-out series, it wasn't just Jimmy Butler carrying that team, right? Their role players were top tier. You gave me Pat Connaughton as their role player that was supposed to substantively move the needle.
Played a major role in their 2021 NBA title run.
Okay? Yeah, first of all, that was post-COVID. Everything. Like, I don't. What was Pat Connaughton's average points during the finals run? During the whole playoff?
I can find that for you.
Go ahead. Like, I'd love to see it. If it's more than 15, I would be surprised.
It doesn't need to be more than 15 because if he's
See,
coming in and hitting
that's what
40%
I'm
of his
saying.
threes.
Like this is what I'm saying. Like Pat Connaughton was one as a terrible example because then you just told me too that Grayson Allen gets taken advantage defensively. Does Pat Connaughton not get taken advantage of defensively?
Not nearly as much, but you know what? We are off the rails right now. I appreciate you lecturing me on NBA title models. I'm standing by my pick. The Bucks are my pick to win the NBA title. You're going to get a motivated Giannis, a motivated Dame. I agree with you. Their depth is not at the Celtics level. I'd say it's as good as the Nuggets, though. The Nuggets sacrificed some of their depth this offseason. And depth does matter a lot in the regular season.
Can I ask you?
By the playoffs time, if you are healthy and you have a good top 7, you're going to be fine.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you take how do you rate Jamal Murray versus Damian Lillard?
That's a great question. This would be an exciting debate. I'm going to take Dame Lillard, and that's after seeing everything Jamal Murray just did. But I will still take Dame Lillard, and I think that's probably only true for the next season, maybe 2 seasons. But his ability to hit any shot past half court, his playmaking that I don't think we talk about a lot, but is really going to be highlighted this year. Games 1 through 82. Maybe Jamal Murray is right there with him, but even as good a playoff run as Jamal Murray just had, I will take Dame.
Coming off injury too, yeah. Who do you take, Aaron Gordon or Brook Lopez? Remember, Aaron Gordon can guard almost any position on the floor.
In playoff style, probably Aaron Gordon, but Brook Lopez doesn't get played off the floor because he can move his feet and he can shoot threes.
Sure, for sure. Who do you take, Nikola Jokic or remember, we're talking about the whole season. Games 1 through 82 through the playoff. Who are you taking, Nikola Jokic or Giannis Antetokounmpo?
I already told you. I'm taking Jokic.
Okay.
I'm saying that the entire...
I'll let the listeners decide what just happened, but okay.
It is hard to repeat. It is hard to repeat. We all know that motivation looks different. And I think that's also going to play out in not a struggle for the Nuggets. I picked them to win 60 games this season. But I believe that you're going to get the most motivated version of the Milwaukee Bucks this year.
Might retire in this horse race, man. Who knows?
You never know. By the way, I am going to give you some flowers. Pat Connaughton averaged 6.9 points per game in the 2021 NBA playoffs. Well, however, he shot 39% from 3 on good volume.
Look,
and if you ask Milwaukee Bucks fans, he was an integral part of that championship.
Yeah, I'm sure if you ask Milwaukee Bucks fans, they'll have really positive things to say about Pat Connaughton. No, I think we got contentious there, but look, I don't disagree with you. I don't think they're like. I'm not sitting here and saying the Bucks are bad. Like it's the same thing with the Suns for me, right? Like I think the Heat and the Nuggets really proved that depth matters in this NBA, right? There's so much talent in this league, and there's so much freak.
League,
yeah, there's so much freak talent in this league that like Joel Embiid is like a unicorn and would have dominated any other iteration of the NBA. Would have been dominated by Joel Embiid, and it's right. Was pretty dominant last year, but like, I hesitate to now think that the Miami Heat model, right, where you have a big 3 or big 4, now that is just the floor of what you need to win a championship, which is crazy to think about, right? Like now you need that and all these role players that fit perfectly together. And all the pieces that you need for spacing. And I agree, the Bucks substantively improved. But I think so did the Celtics. I think the Suns are still there. I think the Suns also improved from this trade, by the way, but with perimeter defense and internal defense, Yusuf Nurkic. And I think the Nuggets are still there. You don't think Yusuf Nurkic is an upgrade on DeAndre Ayton? Defensively?
Yeah. I do not believe he is an upgrade.
Okay.
Now, Ayton did not try.
Yeah. So
in last year's playoffs.
DeAndre Ayton's Raptor was a -2. Yusuf Nurkic is a +2. It's a 4-point swing. 4 points.
Nurkic is still not a stopper. And that's not why they brought him in. If they could have brought in a stopper, if they could have traded for, I don't know,
Who's a true
Jaren
stopper?
Jackson Jr., then they would have.
True stopper in the league. There's like maybe two, right? Brooke Lopez is a stopper. I'll give you that. Jaren Jackson Jr. is depoy because he was a stopper. That doesn't exist like anywhere.
Okay, how about this one? Who would you rather have if you're the Phoenix Suns? Nurkic or Mitchell Robinson? To complement their skill set.
Well, if I'm a GM, right, and I go to Dolan and I say, "How much? What is Mitchell Robinson?" He says multiple first round picks. I'm taking Nurkic, which is what he said, by the way. So no, I mean, for what they gave up, I think the Suns improved.
Yeah, that's fair. And so let's wrap this up by saying, how does it affect the Grizzlies? You believe the Suns improved from this trade?
Yeah, I mean, yes. Look, the Grizzlies. This is gonna sound like I'm a coach in a motivational movie, but the Grizzlies will go as far as the Grizzlies want to go. Like, do I think that the Nuggets and the Lakers and the Suns are better teams? Sure, but they're marginally better teams, right? Like, if you believe in this big three and this mental model King is laid in front of you, then I do buy it to a certain extent. I think the Grizzlies can go far, but it's going to depend on a lot of different things, right? It's going to depend on how Marcus Smart fits in. It's going to depend on how Jaren Jackson Jr. fits in. It's going to depend on if Desmond Bane has taken any leaps. Like, I would say, like, if we improve internally and really develop our talent, we can compete with those players. Even the players that were added. If we're looking at the landscape of the NBA, I think the Grizzlies, I don't really think this changes the Grizzlies' position substantively. I don't think it like drastically changes where the Grizzlies sit in the West and then the landscape of the NBA, really.
It's interesting. I think most people have seen the Suns as the second biggest threat to the Nuggets since the Bradley Beal trade. When that trade happened, I said no, they are not the second biggest threat. It is still the Lakers. And I loved the Lakers offseason. I loved the depth that they added, particularly Taurean Prince and Gabe Vincent. However,
extending Vandy.
Yeah.
Or whatever they call him.
The Suns did get better in this trade. Now, I am not going to concede the point that Grayson Allen and Nurkic are substantial improvements defensively. They're not, okay? When DeAndre Ayton tried, he's a better defender than Nurkic. Now, obviously, there's a big if factor there because he didn't try last year in the playoffs against Jokic, which, you know what, I probably wouldn't have tried in that case either. But anyways, the Suns did improve their depth. And if I just look at their roster now, this is a team that sounds like it can not only succeed in the regular season, but it's got some playoff level depth. Like, Grayson Allen's not a great playoff player, but he can come off the bench. I'll be curious to see what Yuta Watanabe can do there. TJ Warren, Ish Wainwright, Terrence Ross, Josh Okogie, Nazir Little. These are a lot of guys that I don't have a lot of faith in, but can they come off the bench and give you 5 to 8 minutes in the playoffs? I believe so.
What do all those players do like pretty well? There's a common effort between a lot of them. They play with effort. Rebound, defense, perimeter. Like that was
Watanabe is a great shooter. Yeah. So I think that they've added the right type of characters, but I still see a problem with their starting lineup defensively. In that Nurkic, we already know that Jokic dominates him. Jokic takes that matchup personally because Nurkic thought he was better than him when Jokic arrived in the league.
Great.
And Nurkic is having to pay for that every time they play. So we already know how that matchup's going to go. And we already know that that's a defensively limited starting lineup. So with that in mind, I'm keeping the Nuggets atop the West. But with this trade, and with the fact that they got DeAndre Ayton's toxicity out of the locker room, I am going with the Suns as the second best team in the West now as a result of this trade. And for the Grizzlies, it also means that their 4 games against the Portland Trailblazers should be 4 Ws. And it's nice that 2 of those are occurring during Ja's suspension. The Trailblazers, if they'd kept Dame and he decided to play, were certainly no walkover. But with their roster as constructed, the Grizzlies should win those games easily.
So this is my opinion on one thing that you said. And I this has been a very contentious battle. This is the most contentious podcast we've ever had. I'm kind of here for it. But if I have to ask a first round draft pick NBA player to play defense seriously in the conference finals, then we have substantively improved the defense by getting him out.
No,
so,
that's a good point. That's a good point.
That was my point. My point isn't like Grayson Allen's going to go lock up LeBron. My point was, if Bradley Beal needs a minute off the bench, you're going to get solid defense or solid defensive effort from Grayson Allen, right? Like, am I going to sit here and say like, oh, he's a LeBron stopper? No. But one thing I caution Grizzlies fans to think about it this way: do these moves make it such that the Grizzlies have to go out and spend a bunch of money on a free agent? Do these moves? And I would encourage us to think like this when we're thinking about what does this mean for the Grizzlies? I'd ask myself two questions. One, does it change the way Ja and the supporting cast and all these great players that we have, does it change the way that they need to play? And if it does, the second question is, do we have those resources in-house, or do we need to go get those resources, right? Or do we need to spend a bunch of money? I think with the Suns, and even with the Nuggets, it doesn't, right? Like, there's nothing, like, do we need maybe another shooter? Possibly. But does it substantively change how the team is structured outside of what it is today? No, right? So I think that we stand pat. Ja comes back. We learn how to play together. And I think we have the most, what we should be striving for is a most cohesive team. Because I think that's where the Suns are going to struggle a little bit, is how cohesive is a Devin Booker, a ball-dominant scorer? How cohesive is Bradley Beal, a ball-dominant scorer, and Kevin Durant, who can score in any environment? How cohesive is that team going to be? So I think that's where we get our marginal edge on the team like that. So I think that nothing's changed, really. I think I agree with your initial assessment. Like, the Nuggets are going to be the team to beat in the West. I still think that the Warriors are going to be a factor in this when it's all said and done in the Western Conference. And then the Lakers, I agree with you. I think their offseason was great. I think they added a lot of pieces that they need. I think that comes down to whether LeBron, if the 3 a.m. workouts are really doing anything. Time is undefeated. We did say that, but also LeBron dominated Dillon Brooks. But yeah, so I think, ask yourselves those two questions. The answer is no for the Grizzlies for both. It doesn't change anything. There's nothing, like, we still play through Ja, we still play through Desmond, we still play through Jaren. We're gonna ride those guys for as far as they can take us, and I think it's gonna be far. And we can get into the over and under now.
Yeah, that is a beautiful transition, my friend. During this over-under win total segment, we will be in the Royal Court. So let's hear that beautiful basketball. So when you hear the ball bouncing, you know you are in the Royal Court. Karna pointed out to me that King's Court, which I was just naming it that to be like in the royalty theme, but that was a little bit unfair, that he was feeling left out by the name the King's Court. And so we are changing it to the Royal Court, and also helping me have to work on my pronunciation to say royal 10 times fast without messing it up. So there you go. We're in the King's Court, and today we are debating the Grizzlies over under win total. It has been set at 45.5. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah.
Mr. Venkatrash?
Right. Yeah.
That is where it's sat. And when I saw the 45.5, I was pretty surprised. I was pretty surprised because this team in the past 3 years under Taylor Jenkins has gone over its win total each of those years, including last year, which I think we can all agree was at times a disappointing season. Vegas just hasn't figured out the Memphis Grizzlies under Taylor Jenkins and with Ja Morant at the helm. What do you think, Karna? Is 45.5 a good number? Are you going over or under?
I think we both agree on this, that the answer is over. The question really, so this is what Vegas is doing, right? Or at least I assume. They're saying Ja Morant out first 25 games. If that changes, whether it's on appeal or something, I guarantee that line's going to move. They're saying they're going to be substantively worse without Ja Morant. Now, if anyone in Vegas, if they ever want to watch the Grizzlies play, no, that's not necessarily the case. Also, the strength of schedule within that first 25 games maybe isn't as strong. What they could also be factoring in is improvements in the Suns, like we just talked about, improvements in the Lakers, improvements in the Nuggets.
Yeah, the West is an absolutely
Yeah.
brutal stretch.
Who we have to play, right? And even improvements in like OKC, right? Which is in our division, right? So I think that's some of the factoring in along with losing Ja. I think that losing Ja thing is more weighted. So I think that we should maybe think about this line a little bit differently, King. So do you want to reset the line and then do our over-unders? Because I think we're both over.
Yeah.
Are you over?
I am over, just
Yeah.
honestly because of history, which is telling me that the Grizzlies outperformed Vegas' expectations. By the way, OKC not in the Grizzlies division. I always kind of thought they were too, but
It's
oddly
Dallas.
enough, OKC is in the Northwest division. The Grizzlies are in the Southwest division. They're also the two-time defending Southwest champs,
So
along with the Dallas Mavericks, New Orleans Pelicans, Houston Rockets, and San Antonio Spurs. So
it makes no sense that OKC is not in there.
No,
because the distance relative to OKC and it doesn't matter.
It's got to be like no farther than like the third farthest team, because I've driven to OKC quite a few times from Memphis. It's like 6 hours. It's not very far away.
Wow.
So, because it's on the way to California, and I've done way too many cross-country road trips. But yes, I would go over the 45.5. I think the real debate is 49.5, which, by the way, if you go to certain sports books, again, no sponsors here, so not going to tell you which one, but I'd imagine they're all about the same. If you bump it up to a 49.5 over and under win total for the Memphis Grizzlies and take the over, you would get plus 205 odds. So basically 2-1 money.
Yeah.
So let's debate that number for the good people of the Hoops Royalty family. Are the Grizzlies going to reach 50 wins this season?
I'll let you go first, but I'll take the under here. I'll take the under, but I'll let you go first for the over. Look.
Interestingly, I was going to go under as well. And it's just a matter of how terrible the West is, and how I think the early part of the season, if they had Ja Morant and they had, as you talked about, the continuity that many of these other Western Conference teams lack, then I would be saying, okay, the Grizzlies can mop up some easy wins in the first part of their schedule, and that'll set them up well. But as it is, I would say this is probably a 48 or 49 win team. And that might not lead to a huge drop in the standings, because what people aren't necessarily taking into account is that with the West being so good, yes, that makes it so you have to be a really good team to make the playoffs, but it also makes it so teams are going to lose a lot, regardless of how talented they are. And so I think 48 to 49 wins could still put the Grizzlies around that fourth or fifth seed that I predicted for them. But honestly, I wouldn't really touch that bet. The bet that's interesting to me is the Southwest Division champs. The Grizzlies are actually not the favorites to win the Southwest Division.
Mavericks.
They are at plus 160, and the Mavericks are the favorites at plus 155. I would take that bet all day. I fully believe that the Grizzlies are a better team than the Mavericks. I think the bigger threat's probably the Pelicans, but the Pelicans' lack of consistency, lack of health is what's going to keep them from winning the division. So the Grizzlies are going to three-peat in the division, and so you should take them at those plus 160 odds.
You must be on that Evan Turner sportsbook or something. that is crazy to me.
I know. That's crazy. It's a layup.
But again, this goes back to my whole diatribe. We have Depoy, dude. Like, our defense, just with Jaren Jackson Jr., forget Marcus Smart for a second, who is all NBA, all defense, right? We have one of the best defenders of this generation of NBA players, and most dynamic defender too. And there's no value on it. There's no conceivable value on it, right? And I understand you signed Kyrie. Yeah, he's wearing number 11. Cool. Luka looks great in the gym. But we just had this conversation about depth, and I don't think that's a team that has as much depth as the Grizzlies, as much dynamic young players as the Grizzlies. I'm absolutely taking Southwest Division champions, especially now that I'm reminded OKC is not in that mix because they're in a similar position, right? They have a bunch of young playmakers, bunch of young stars. I think the Ja Morant suspension is revealing that a lot of people don't really know how the Grizzlies can function without Ja Morant, and how good Jaren Jackson and the leaps that Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane are taking as players. And this kind of goes back to a conversation that we've been having, King, is how underrated some of our guys are, especially Desmond Bane. I think in this case, he's a dynamic scorer. He's going to come back better this season. So I would take that bet. I guess one case for the over is kind of in the same vein that I'm talking about, which is, look, we still have a really dynamic team. I think Vegas is overweighting how much Ja Morant means to the Grizzlies.
True.
Before you attack me a little,
I'm not. I was honestly going to say, I said under on the 49.5, but that's not a real bet. Like, I just don't love the over in that case. I'd say that if you are bullish on the Grizzlies, the over 45.5 is one thing, but if you want to get a little extra value, bet the division. That is where I see the most value. I think the Grizzlies are going to land somewhere between like 48 to 52 wins is where I see them.
That's where I see us, yeah.
And so I don't know if, to me, with as deep as the West is, I would want to bet on the Grizzlies to win 50 games, but I sure as heck would bet on them to win more games than the Mavericks, the Pelicans, the Rockets, and the Spurs.
And I agree with that. I actually agree with you. I think the Pelicans are more compelling, especially if Zion pans out in any way. It could be interesting.
And by the way, if you like the Pelicans, you can also go into division straight forecast on NBA futures. And if you wanted to bet on the Grizzlies to finish first and the Pelicans to finish second in the Southwest Division, that would be plus 475 odds. So if that's where you're thinking, which is where I'm thinking,
this is like the Mavericks hater like bet. No, look, I agree with you. I think over is a hard case for 49.5. I could see it though in a world where Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart, and Jaren Jackson Jr. take those first 25 games, say, F it, this is who we are, and play.
We're putting the league on notice.
Yeah, we're put the league on notice, which the Grizzlies franchise is now known for doing. And I think that first 25 games is going to put the league on notice for a lot of different for the leap that Desmond Bane has made, and to how dominant a defender Jaren Jackson Jr. can be. If those two things are proven, then I think over 49.5 is fine. I could see it being a 50, 51, 52 win team.
I think it's hard to make a case on either side of that. What's easy to make a case for is over 45.5 and Grizzlies Southwest Division.
We both saw candidly, King and I saw that line, and we were like, "There's no debate really between us to be had there." It's we move the line and see what pans out from that debate. So, look, there's going back to my roll decree last time is what do we do about these young players? We trot them out there and see what we have. If that's a strategy from the front office, then maybe, we drop a couple games, which is fine in the continuum of a 2, 3, 4 year, hopefully championship window. You get to see what you have in that moment. And you drop a couple games and some bettors are angry. Who cares? King and I don't care. We're all about rings around here. So I think that, I'm taking them to win the Southwest championship, or I'm taking them to win their division. I'm taking their head-to-head record against the Dallas Mavericks, if that's possible. But I don't bet.
I don't know. That matchup has swung heavily in the Mavericks' favor whenever Luka's played. But it's going to look different with Marcus Smart, though. It's going to look different.
I don't buy the Kyrie-Luka synergy.
Oh, I don't either. I don't buy it either. I'm just saying that the history is Luka beats the Grizzlies, and I think the Grizzlies will be a better team, but I don't know. The Mavericks with Luka have some kind of mojo.
I don't know. I'm a big fan. I think take Grizzlies to win the division championship. Take them to win the Western Conference championship. Take them to win the NBA championship.
Okay, I'm not going that far.
I don't bet, so.
Well, so Karna and I's best bets for y'all, or in Karna's case, best picks, are Grizzlies Southwest Division champs. And if you're really feeling crazy, Grizzlies to finish first in division, Pelicans to finish second, and get you some real odds. Okay, that's King's bet.
I love like that sort of analysis. I just wouldn't put money behind it, but I'm
all right. But all we can say is the Grizzlies 45.5 over is a layup. Vegas has been wrong about the Grizzlies for 3 years running. Not to say wrong, but the Grizzlies have gone over 3 years running. This team always outperforms expectations, and Karna's point is well taken that Vegas is probably overvaluing how much Ja matters and saying that those 25 games are going to go really poorly. I don't see them going any worse than like 13-12, 14-11, and in that case, the Grizzlies would stay afloat. But
I have one small thing for you.
All right.
I know we're coming up on time, but this is a bet. I think you can make this bet. I don't know if you can. If your sports book is worth anything, you should be able to. Desmond Bain All-Star.
Oh, that's a good question.
That's a question, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean let's see. You can bet on people to make the All NBA team.
Yeah. All-Star. You should be able to fan vote too.
Yeah. I guess that's true. Fans could literally sway the vote. Interestingly enough, you cannot bet on John Morant to be All NBA team because he won't be eligible with the new rules. He's automatically out of that running. But if you wanted to bet on a big season from Desmond Bain, so big that he's in one of those 3 All NBA teams, that would be plus 2,500. To bet on Jaren Jackson Jr. to be on one of those 3 All NBA teams would be plus 3,500. Between those two, I'm definitely taking Jaren because he's got a better chance to be one of the best bigs in the sport that Desmond Bain does have to be one of the best.
Do I not understand betting odds? What? That makes no sense.
Some of these are really strange right now.
Yeah. Well, there's another one for you, Jaren Jackson Jr.
By the way, he's also plus 600 to win Defensive Player of the Year, tied for the shortest odds with Evan Mobley, but that's going to be a hard sell for people because, basketball voting is really about narratives, and the narrative is out on Jaren thanks to FIBA. That's not going to matter for his performance on the Grizzlies, but it might matter relative to what media members vote for him for Defensive Player of the Year. So just keep that in mind if you see that plus 600 and you're like, yeah, I'm going to grab that. I don't know. I would worry that
that's
a 2P factor.
I feel like betting on what like someone else thinks about the game is not smart.
Unless that someone else is Karna Venkatraj or King Jimison, in which case you should bet on it.
Yeah, absolutely you should.
Any more thoughts, my ma'am?
No, man. We had a really contentious podcast, but I just want you to know King and I are good friends and we share a love of the Grizzlies, but also I'm right. So don't forget that, right? I'm just kidding.
Also, I'm right that the Bucks are the title favorite. Depth be damned, okay?
Yeah. Honestly, we're just tripping. The Grizzlies are the title favorite. Let's go.
Oh my gosh.
We're tripping, dude.
You're playing too much to the fan base, and they're gonna toot us out if they think we're lying to them. I am not lying to you when I say that the Grizzlies are gonna win the Southwest Division, but I would be lying to you if I said I think they're gonna be a conference finalist. That is one of the problems with this offseason is that the very top of the West got better, and the Grizzlies have a long way to prove to say they're still in that conversation. So, with that, that's it for us at Hoops Royalty. As always, we're bringing you Royal Hoops takes, not live from the 901, but about the 901. Royal Hoops takes about all things Memphis Grizzlies and NBA. We've got a couple more preview shows coming up. Really excited for those. So look for these last few weeks of off-season content to really pick up before the Grizzlies opener on October 25th. But follow us on social media. X, of course. Instagram, of course. But also, we got a presence on TikTok, okay? Follow us on TikTok. There will be some good content there.
For all you young folk out there. TikTok.
For all the youths. Yeah. We're on TikTok, and please like and subscribe on YouTube. 5-star reviews and nice comments wherever you listen to this podcast. It really helps. We're trying to grow this show heading into the season because we've got a lot to say, and we think a lot of it's pretty smart, and we would love to grow our listenership. So tell your friends about it. Tell your family about it. Tell Grizzlies fans about it, of course. Also tell Grizzlies haters about it so they can listen and be mad because it still counts as the listen.
I hate listening. I will hate listen to a Yankees podcast all day. So
yeah,
if someone hates
if you are a Grizzlies hater, thank you. We love to have you, and please DM us, tweet at us, whatever. Tell us why we're wrong. But thank you all for listening. Again, go out and like and subscribe, 5-star reviews, nice comments, and we look forward to bringing you lots more Grizzlies offseason content heading into this beautiful 2023-2024 season very soon. Thank y'all and have a great night.